It's a cold, rainy night. Good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from a new Sabata Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, President John Dramani Mahama forwards 3 petitions for the removal of the Chief Justice to the Council of State, marking the beginning of a constitutional process to remove the Chief Justice or otherwise. We'll tell you exactly what the procedure is and what it's to be expected in the coming days. Stay with us. Also, we ask, where are the over 1,300 Electricity Company of Ghana containers locked up at the ports or have vanished into thin air? Tonight, details are emerging suggesting they cannot be traced. What exactly happened? Stay with us. A minority in Parliament, they've raised concerns with the recent arrest of former government appointees and the search of some homes of former government appointees in relation to these various allegations of wrongdoing. We'll hear exactly what the concerns are and whether indeed they are in good faith. Stay with us, as always. You're an integral part of the conversation tonight, and plus the disruptions we're seeing all around us here in the Greater Accra region as a result of the rains that came down just within a period of 30 minutes. It caused so much havoc, and that's got a number of all of us talking right now. I'm going to be showing you some of the devastation caused by these rains earlier today, in fact this evening. And as always, let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Finance Minister says the 2025 budget is people-centered and one that would ensure economic growth. Dr. Kasia Latofosen appealed to Parliament to support the budget and ensure the passage of some 21 bills before it. He made the remarks after the end of the budget debate in Parliament.
This budget is one that is people-centered, with innovative solutions to address our deep-seated socio-economic issues. This year, Mr. Speaker, we have set ourselves key targets, and we believe this target will be achieved.
The Supreme Court has ruled as moot an injunction application by Money Africa and security expert Kwesi Enin to restrain the president from removing IGP and other security heads until the substantive case is determined in May 2025. The 5-member panel, presided over by Justice Bafuboni, held that the pendency of the case shouldn't stop the president from carrying out his administrative duties.
If you take that kind of action, the court must resist it. There are many situations where courts have taken on, or applied their powers to resist such things, and you have a situation like that here. So I was impressing on the court that even though the act has happened, in our view in law, it is void or voidable. And I was trying to impress on the court to take that kind of step to send a message to everybody.
Lawyers for the former Director General of the National Signal Bureau, Kwabena Idubuahin, have applied to the High Court to grant bail to him and his wife, Angela Boateng. They argue that the bail terms by the Economic and Organized Chrome Office EOCO are burdensome. The bail application is to be moved on Friday, March 28 at the High Court. Energy Minister John Abdullahi Janapo has received a startling report on ECG's procurement investigations, which indicates that 1,328 containers out of about 2,500 locked up containers at Tema Port could not be accounted for. The sector minister said that the alarming findings raise urgent questions about accountability and transparency within the ECG.
ECG itself presents as containers held at the ports 1,328 cannot be accounted for. That is very serious and that's very alarming. 1,328 containers cannot just vanish into thin air.
2024 flag bearer of the opposition NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has commiserated with affected traders of the Adum Blue Light market fire. The former vice president appealed to the current administration to use the disaster as a clarion call in completing the second phase of the Kejitia redevelopment market project.
Mintiminda Usha na eya our hopa se nipa ejwadifo omuja padie na shisa.
I'm unable to sleep since Friday when I saw pictures of the ravaging fire. I even saw a man saying he's lost a 21-year-old business. That's quite sad.
Meanwhile, a former flag bearer aspirant of the NPP, Kennedy Japan, has also sent a message to affected traders of the fire outbreak.
Oh, it's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. So it's probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, and Kel Chuckles Toothpaste. Happy Smile. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. Not so good news, as we saw in the most part of this evening, just around 5 p.m., between 5 and 6 p.m. earlier today. Heavy rains caused flooding and damage in parts of the Greater Accra region, collapsing structures in East Legon and other parts of especially the Greater Accra region. That's coming up next. So what you see on the screen right now is an incident that happened at the East Legon, that's the ANC Mall, the car park that has a carport where a solar panel as well serves as that particular car parking area. When the rain set in, this solar panel carport area collapsed, and we understand that there were a number of vehicles parked under this particular structure, and some vehicles had people in them. We have no clear information as yet as to the state of some of the individuals in these vehicles that were parked under there. You see some persons running in there to try and rescue some of the individuals who were trapped under this collapsed structure. So we're keeping an eye on how things are playing out. We're also trying to get some more information about this particular incident, but this happened between 5 and 6 p.m. earlier in the early part of this evening. This is the ANC Mall in East Legon, the car park, which also has a solar panel in there, where you have vehicles parked there as well, under this particular structure that collapsed. Quite unfortunate situation, but that's not the only one. This incident that happened, we also monitored reports from some of you or viewers on social media about another collapse of a tree. We understand the tree stump that fell on a vehicle. It's not clear as yet whether there were persons in the vehicle that this particular tree fell on as a result of the rainstorm earlier today. This happened in Kotobabi on the Spintex Road. Now let's get some more information on what we're seeing right now. We understand the rescue efforts are still in place, and the National Disaster Management Organization have attended to this particular incident, as was reported earlier today. So this is another incident as a result of the rains that caused a tree to break and fall on, we understand, a vehicle that was also parked near this particular location. And Tommy Tete is the assemblyman for the Kotobabi electoral area. This is somewhere on the Spintex Road. He's joining us on the telephone right now. And Tommy Tete, good evening. Thank you. Tommy Thompson, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, sir.
Great. First off, we're just seeing the videos of this incident that happened, but you are there. We understand you've visited this scene. Tell us exactly what happened, what you saw.
Okay, thank you very much for your listeners. My brother can say what happened is that from town when I came home during the raining, within 5 minutes time, I had a call. When I just entered the room, I had a call from the surface dealer by the roadside close to the Kotubabi police station that there's an accident. When I got there, there's a very big tree by the roadside, and the tree fell on a car, a moving car. You know, cars were passing by. It was two cars, but one did not upset the first one, but the second, the one behind, the Hyundai Honda fell on the car, and the driver stuck in the car. And I called the police, I called NADMO, I called fire service. Police came to the scene. NADMO, it took time before they came, but fire service couldn't come. I had a call from NADMO, the fire service that there's another issue at a Washington Mall. They've gone there. And NADMO came. So they came and supported them to cut the tree and make sure we rescue the driver from the car. So as you speak now, the driver is being admitted at the police hospital. NADMO people came and, you know, the chainsaw they brought, honestly, it's very fast. There is more chainsaws. I think you don't have equipment and they are office. The municipal assembly and NADMO office here, they don't have anything. So they called the region. So national region came and the chainsaw they brought, it wasn't, you know, cutting the chain as we want. So we have to fall on somebody at Accra New Town and they brought their heavy chainsaw machines and the cane is in cut off. So, but they haven't finished. As I'm speaking to you, they're still cutting. I don't know if you can hear the machine on the background.
Yes, we can hear that. So you're still at this scene, and so they're still cutting the tree into pieces.
Yes, they're still cutting the tree. As you can hear the chainsaw machine in the background.
I see, but then again, you indicated that you called on the fire service officials. They were attending to another incident. So
yes.
What's the state of affairs now? Did they give you any assurance that they're going to come back to attend to it, or the NADMO officials are the ones who are trying to deal with the situation?
The fire service officer assured me that they will come with another tools and stuff, but as to speak now, they never come. They've never been here, but NADMO officials are here, and they are still working with the guys we call for Newtown. So eventually, I can say on the authority that the guys are really working seriously. Because the machine they bought is a heavy chainsaw machine. They're able to cut the tree before the car was removed, was towed to the police station. As I'm speaking, the car has been towed to the police station to clear part of the way. But the log is there and they are cutting them to pieces for now so that they can clear the way for the vehicular movement.
I see. And we understand that this has led to some heavy vehicular traffic there as well. Are you able to confirm this for us?
Yes, we're able to do that.
I see. Well, I thank you so much, Mr. Tommy Thompson, for this update, and then also what is happening there as we speak. So that's some more details we're getting from the assemblyman for the Kotubabi area. That's Tommy Thompson giving us details of this particular incident. So we're keeping an eye on these two separate incidents on the Spintex Road, and then there's this one we just saw as well in Kotubabi as well, and then we understand the occupant of the said vehicle that this tree fell on has been admitted at the police hospital. So we're keeping an eye on this one. We'll update you as we get some more information, but this is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, President John Dramani Mahama has forwarded 3 petitions for the removal of the Chief Justice to the Council of State, marking the beginning of a constitutional process to remove the Chief Justice or otherwise. And we'll tell you exactly what the procedure is as enshrined in the Constitution and what is to be expected in the coming days. And this is one that it's not going to be the first of its kind. We've seen previous instances where the former president Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo was petitioned by ASEPA, and other groups for the removal of the then Chief Justice Ninya Boa, And now we also do know that even prior to President John Mahama becoming president, the former president Nana Akufo-Addo had been petitioned by Professor Kweku Asare to have the Chief Justice removed. But then again, we understand there's been 3 different petitions right now. That's the information we're getting. This is the detail for a statement that came through from the presidency earlier today. My colleague Dennis Baberi-Wadam is going to be joining me in a bit. But here's what we do know, that 3 petitions, we understand President Mahama has received from various persons seeking the removal of the Chief Justice. Now, the president, and this is a statement that was signed by Phyllis Kwachofosu, the president has forwarded the 3 petitions to the Council of State to commence the consultation process mandated by Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. And that is the details as we have it now, and also what the statement by the spokesperson to the president and the Minister for Government Communications, Phyllis Kwachofosu, Member of Parliament for the Brasibo-Kwamankese constituency, issued a statement earlier today. And here are the details as we have it. In fact, it came through just about 2 hours ago, so it's pretty fresh on the plate. Now, the information we're getting, that some 3 petitions from various persons seeking the removal of the Chief Justice, her Ladyship Justice Geto Tukonu. The President has forwarded the 3 petitions to the Council of State to commence the consultation process mandated by Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. So that is the information we're getting right now from the presidency. And this is one that we're keeping an eye on and how things are playing out right now here on Ghana Tonight. But let me just remind you as well that this is an issue that really the many people who have been watching how things have been playing out even after the elections and asking questions about what the way forward will be, especially in the matter of the Chief Justice. Dennis Baberi-Wadam, Esquire, is my colleague. He's joining us in the studio right now. Dennis, now the details of this statement gives pointers of what is going to be happening in the coming days. But let's put it in context. What should we be expecting going forward?
Well, so now that we have been told that the president has forwarded these petitions to the Council of States to start the process of consultation, it indicates that clearly, first of all, there are some petitions before that have been sent to the president in respect of removal of the Chief Justice. Now, typically what happens when it comes to the removal of justices of the superior courts in general will be that, first of all, the president will forward that petition to the Chief Justice, who will determine whether there's a case to be heard, what we usually refer to as a prima facie case. However, when it comes to the Chief Justice herself, because a petition cannot be forwarded to herself to determine whether there's a case to be made against her, the president typically will do that in consultation with the Council of States, who constitute a committee. It is that committee which will look into the matter to see if there's a case to be heard, and then they will take it from there.
I see.
Now, that committee is supposed to be comprised of 2 Supreme Court justices and then 3 other persons who are not supposed to be members of the Council of States. They are not supposed to be lawyers, and they're not supposed to be MPs.
Right.
So together, that committee, after first determining whether there's a case to be heard, then they begin to go into the matter itself to determine the merit of it. Thereafter, they make recommendations, and then the president is bound by the recommendations of that particular, the recommendations made by members of this committee. Now, it is instructive to know that we've got to this point because when you look at the construction in the Constitution, it was not too clear what the procedure should be for the removal of the Chief Justice herself, because like I explained, it gave indication that in the case of superior courts of the justice of the superior courts, it was the case that the petition will be forwarded to the Chief Justice.
Right.
However, in the case of the Chief Justice, there seemed to be some confusion as to what the procedure should be. And that's how come the Supreme Court used the opportunity in the case of Frank Ejechum versus Attorney General to give us a clear indication as to how we should progress. So the procedure that is now used, or that will be used in this particular instance, will be that which was defined by the Supreme Court itself in the case of Frank Ejechum versus the Attorney General.
I see. Now, what I see in there is that let's dwell a bit more on the first point on what's on the screen.
Yeah.
That if there's a prima facie case, a committee.
Yes.
That is after this has been referred to the Council of State. So we're on the second stage of this process. Let's flip back to the earlier point. So the president has received the petition from these three individuals.
Yes, that can be implied from the letter we get from the presidency.
Perfect. So this box has been ticked.
Ticked already, yes.
Then the second point is the president has now forwarded this to the Council of State.
Yes.
To
so that
determine
means
whether
that
there's a prima facie case.
the consultation process has begun, because when you read the letter, it indicated that it is the beginning of the consultation process. What it means is that with that consultation, a committee will be set up. It is that committee which will now determine whether there's a prima facie case.
I see. And the constitution of these three committees, let's flip to the next. It is defined in 146.
You will find all of that in 146.
And they are not supposed to be lawyers or MPs.
They are not supposed to be lawyers. They are not supposed to be MPs. They are not supposed to be Council of State. Because mind you, it is the president in consultation with the Council of State that will form this committee.
So then the president has a discretion to choose
from
amongst all other individuals who are Ghanaians, apart from MPs, no lawyers, or members of the Council of State.
To be on this particular committee and to do the job. What is instructive is that at the end of the day, whatever recommendations that the committee would come out with, then the president would have to act by that. However, when you look at
the president chooses, that's not what I understand. So the president chooses these three individuals?
Yes. Together with the committee, the Council of State. Yes.
Okay.
But like I was saying, when you read the full complement of Article 146, you would find that along the line, when such a petition is brought against either a justice of the Superior Court or even the Chief Justice, as in this case, the president may, by a warrant, suspend the Chief Justice.
I see.
So that is also part of the law as we have it. So when you look at it closely, it is one that the president has the power to exercise. But as we stand now, we are still at the point where the president has forwarded the petitions to the Council of State for that consultation process to begin. Thereafter, then we can see what next. But what needs to be put on record and what will be the turning point for this will be whether or not this committee will make a case out of these petitions or not. I
see. And you're saying that the president still has the power to, for instance, suspend the Chief Justice while this whole process is ongoing?
Yeah, that's what the law says.
And this is it?
Yes, so that should be in, I think, 146, 6 or 7, thereabout, one of them. So if you can move to that particular provision, you'll find that the Constitution actually gives the president that power to... Okay, let's look at the 8th.
So this, I see, all proceedings...
So, yes, proceedings should be held in camera and all that. And that's the more reason why when some of these petitions come, it is very difficult for the media to be able to put the details out there.
Precisely. Because it's supposed to be held in camera. And the justice or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in his or her defense, in this instance, by himself or herself or by a lawyer.
Yes.
Or other expert of his choice or her choice.
It's typically going to take the shape of you being accused of a wrongdoing, and then there's supposed to be a tribunal which is going to sit on your matter. So in that respect, you'll be heard in your defense. You can either do so by yourself or by a lawyer and all that. So to go through all that process, and eventually the recommendations will be made.
I see. Now let's flip to the 7.7 because the committee appointed under Clause 6 of this article shall inquire into the petition and recommend to the president whether the Chief Justice ought to be removed from office. So it is the burden of this three-member committee that would now determine the fate of the Chief Justice going forward, either be these petitions should be dismissed or considered for that matter.
Okay, so
interesting.
So the point I was making, so when you look at 14610A, where it talks about where a petition has been referred to the committee under this article, the President may. A says that in the case of a Chief Justice, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State, again, by warrant signed by him, suspend the Chief Justice. Where it has to do with other justice of the Superior Court or a chairman of a regional tribunal, acting in accordance with the advice of the Judicial Council, suspend that justice or that chairman of the regional tribunal. So that can be found at in Article 14610A and B in respect of the power of the President to suspend whilst this proceeding or a petition is brought against any of these persons that we have talked about, Alfred.
I see. So that's what is on the screen now?
Yes.
Interesting. So this we can find the details of. But then again, this is not the only legal matter we're having to deal with today. Now, coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, we go straight into the matters related to that's Kwabena Dubois. That's coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. The former CEO of the National Signals Bureau, the minority in Parliament, they've raised concerns with the recent arrest of the former government officials in relation to various allegations of wrongdoing. We'll hear exactly what the concerns are and if they are really in good faith. That's the fundamental question right now. And we're going to get into information that we're getting about the plea by the lawyers of Kwabena Edujemfi to have the bail conditions varied because they're burdensome. We're getting to the details of that shortly. But the lawyers for the former Director General of the National Signals Bureau, that's Kwabena Edujemfi, Kwabena Eduboahing, I beg your pardon, that's Kwabena Eduboahing, have applied to the High Court to grant their client and his wife, Angela Boateng, bail. Now, they claim that the bail terms granted by the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, is, quote, burdensome. Now, what exactly do they mean by this? The bail application is to be moved on Friday, March 28th at the High Court. If you recall, yesterday, Dr. Justice Adam Shremside, the Deputy Attorney General, gave us details that they are supposed to, as it were, come up with 260,000 cedis each, some sureties. So we understand that they are finding it difficult to raise that bail amount. And that is why his lawyers have come up with this particular plea to the courts and also asking that the bail conditions be varied. We're going to get into the details of it as we have received earlier this evening, and then also get a bit more reactions to this. But even before that, the minority in Parliament, they raised concerns. In fact, the minority leader, Alexander Afenyomakin himself, had this to say about these recent developments with respect to the arrest and interrogation of former government officials, the ex-Kufuor Akufo-Addo administration.
They terminate your appointment and you have the ministers defending the actions. Since when did employment after December 7 become an irregular employment? So far, it is only one minister who has lived up to the promises of the Constitution by refusing to sack Ghanaians in his ministry. But even so, it's too early to commend him. We wait to see what he's going to do. All other agencies are sacking Ghanaians, all because they do not have NDC party cards. This is a government for NDC apparatchiks. They don't believe in the Ghanaian dream. They don't believe in the promises of the Constitution. And they do so because they have no spare to prick the size of their intent. Only partisan ambition overleaping itself and falling on the other. Shakespeare reminds us of this. This is the character of the NDC. It is their party first and nothing else. We have seen how they approach issues of accountability. Mr. Speaker, we in the minority are not against accountability. We believe in accountability, but we are against abuse of human rights. today all the human rights lawyers in the NDC have kept quiet. They've gone to sleep. Where are their human rights lawyers? Their human rights lawyers who are in court enforcing the rights of citizens. Where are they? Today, Ghanaian citizens are detained by investigative agencies beyond 48 hours. Ghanaian citizens have their right being abused without taking them to court.
That's Alexander Afanyoma King, the minority leader, MP for the Futu constituency. You recall that I asked this question of the Deputy Attorney General as to why this Kwabena Edubuahin and his wife are still in custody. The reason being they have not been able to meet the bail conditions. That's according to the Deputy Attorney General. And rightly so, we've seen that captured in a letter from his lawyers making a plea. And Dennis has the details of this affidavit in support of this motion we're talking about. David, Dennis, what more do we know?
Well, so it's actually a process they filed in court today. And they are seeking to get bail for these two suspects. That's Kwabena Edubuahin and then the wife, Angela Ejibuateng. That's because, like you rightly said, they were granted bail by Iyoko. Unfortunately, they were not able to meet the bail conditions. Now, that would be one of the things that the lawyers would rely on to make the case for the High Court to grant them bail, to say that the bail conditions were very high, so much so that they are unable to meet. They also make the case that they think that the pronouncements by the Attorney General in yesterday's press conference were in some parts prejudicial. That's almost pronouncing them guilty even before they are heard or they are charged. They also raise concerns about the fact that they were not given the opportunity to have conference with their clients as is supposed to be, because conference with clients is supposed to be some confidential activity. But it is the case of lawyers for the suspects that at the time they went to Iyoko to have conference with them before interrogation, they were asked to have that conference on the counter and that somebody had to listen to it. They thought that was a violation of that arrangement that they are supposed to have. So you have a motion that they have filed. We are still not sure whether, it's been filed today, so maybe in the coming days we'll see whether the Attorney General or Iyoko will also file an opposition to this particular one. But essentially, what they are seeking to do is that they are saying that they are ready to stand trial if they are given bail. They have persons of means to stand surety for them, and that they are urging on the court to grant them bail so that, on conditions that they can meet. Because when you look at it clearly, they stated the bail conditions that have been given to them by Iyoko. That the first applicant, in this case, they're talking about Kwabena Edubuahin, that his bail sum is some 120 million Ghana cedis, and that is to be justified. What it simply means is that whoever stands surety for this should be able to show and to prove that whatever immovable property that you are going to use for this, you indeed own it, you show, and then they're satisfied that yes, indeed it is yours, and that it indeed exists. Likewise, for the wife, she is supposed to, the bail sum is 80 million Ghana cedis, seem to be justified. And these are the conditions that they have not been able to meet on that particular bail that was granted them. And it is the view of the lawyers that the reason for pegging the bail sum at these numbers is because the respondents, in this case the Attorney General and Iyoko, do not want to grant them bail. And that if they wanted to grant them bail, the conditions wouldn't have been at this. So they go on to recount all that has happened to make the case that indeed they are convinced that with all that is happening, it is just a strategy by Iyoko and the Attorney General to deny the suspects bail. So in sum, that is how the picture looks like for this. But of course, bail, it's at the discretion of the court. So when the court looks at all the facts before it, including the depositions that they made in the affidavit, may come to a conclusion that yes, we'll grant you bail on these conditions.
That indeed the court could agree that the bail conditions are burdensome as they have described.
Right, or otherwise.
But
this is seen as a fresh bail application. It's not in any way seeking to vary, because there's also another application that could be variation of bail conditions. That is if this court had granted them bail, but then the bail conditions were high for them, they could go for variation. But in this case, it's an institution that has granted them bail. They say, no, we are unable to meet. Let's go to the High Court and assert this right of the High Court granting us bail. So if the High Court grants them the bail, it could be less, it could be more. But they are praying that this is already what we are dealing with. We are unable to meet it. We want lesser bail conditions.
I see. And let's read this paragraph 20, because it has some details that the minority also raises. And we'll bring in Adam Sena, who's the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, in a bit. But they talk about the engagement of the Attorney General with the press yesterday.
That while playing with the liberty of the applicants, the second respondents in the morning of the 24th day of March 2025 engaged the press and painted the applicants to the whole world as criminals in a very unprofessional manner. And it is difficult to come to terms with the fact that the second respondent had the premeditation and the aim of pronouncing them guilty when their statements had not been taken, neither are they being charged with any criminal offense arraigned before a court of competent jurisdiction. So that goes back to the point I was making, that they are making the case that the press conference by the Attorney General yesterday was in some respects prejudicial, and they do not think that it was in the interest of their clients.
Let me bring in Adam Sena, who's the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. So that's the concern, not just by the minority, but now you're hearing the lawyers of Kwabena Dubois and his wife also re-echo the point about the AG's press conference yesterday. Now, they say that that's more like trying the case in the court of public opinion, making prejudicial statement. But then again, you also commend the AG because it is a move of accountability to the Ghanaian people. How do we find the balance?
Well, in my view, it's neither here nor there. This is the best practice in many jurisdictions. The Department of Justice and FBI in the US will often call press conferences on cases they are handling to brief the citizens and the media. They'll call, sometimes on the morning on which they are filing charges against specific individuals, they'll call this press conference in front of the Department of Justice or FBI and begin to give who is involved, what charges, and so on and so forth. And they also have very high-profile situations where if the nation's peace or security is at risk, it will be a briefing, and so on and so forth. These are regularly done. The value of this is to make sure that persons who have additional information can provide it, citizens are carried along, and it serves as a deterrent, because many of those in public office or private who are inclined to think that they can get away with these kinds of corrupt and fraudulent acts will begin to know that, look, several people are being pursued. These cases are going to end up in court. There's the embarrassment. There is the jail sentencing and what have you. So this should not be a big issue. What is important is it factual? Are the facts clear? I think it's important to make a distinction between whether an individual is guilty and whether the actions can be clearly determined as fraudulent or corrupt actions. It's not difficult to be able to tell when something corrupt is going on or something unethical, or it's actions involving conflict of interest. To the extent that we can determine based on an analysis of the actions that this is fraudulent or it is corrupt or it's unethical, there's freedom of speech. We should be able to say that. When it comes to a conclusive ruling on whether a person is guilty, that's a separate thing. That's where you want the courts to rule. So we should not confuse the two. Allow the media, allow civil society, allow the Attorney General to say, look, based on the facts, I'm clear in my mind that this was unethical, this was corrupt, because we have a definition for corruption, the abuse of entrusted power for personal gain, and so on and so forth. You can draw those conclusions in relation to the actions. Who would give the final verdict whether the person is guilty or not? That goes to court. But it doesn't stop us from saying that we can clearly determine or see that such and such actions were not acceptable.
But when you hear the minority in Parliament, and we just played the Alexander Penyamake in Parliament earlier today, saying that, well, they see this more as persecution, sort of, and that this administration or this government can jail all the MPs or the former government appointees. They wouldn't mind. They're going to be focused. And kick them out in 2028. I mean, looking at that particular position taking and this call for accountability as well, how does that strike you?
I mean, that's just stretching things beyond reasonable, I don't know what words to use. I think he's just exaggerating. Listen, how many cases have come up so far? Just about 4. How many appointees were in government? If you take the presidency itself, I believe they had over 2,000 people at the presidency. So if you have about 4 or so searches, I don't think we've exceeded 5 at the moment. High-profile cases. Alfred, correct me. So what are we talking about? You strike the probability. I think that the nature of the evidence that has been put out, and let's not kid ourselves. You have an individual who in 4 years has purchased 27 houses. Come on. Let's stop being detracted or diverted from the substantive issues. How was that possible? And I've been telling people that, listen, that's not possible without the facilitation of other people. There has to be other people involved at different levels for it to do the kind of things that happened and no red flags came up. Now, it means that there are other things that were going on. It's a systems failure. Ordinarily, this should not have happened. So let's focus on the substantive things. I think that it would be worthwhile our thinking through how could one individual be able to do this? Does this cut across other sectors? What kind of evaluation systems do we have, monitoring systems to cross-check to ensure that this doesn't happen? What checks and balances do we put in place to strengthen what exists to make sure that there's no repetition? If one person or one family can do this, what else could have happened? There are substantive issues we should be focusing on rather than this partisan thing of you are chasing us, you can jail all of us. I mean, let's get real. That's not going to happen today, nor is it going to happen tomorrow. In any case, both sides, opposition and government, should understand that this cycle is going to continue. This is part of our governance and accountability architecture. When one government ends its tenure, the next government is going to put a microscope to what they have done. They're going to unearth issues. And that's part of our design. Let's stop this whole hula baloo of witch hunting. This is not witch hunting. This is our governance architecture. It is how accountability will be ensured. Once you are out, we are going to cross-check what went on. And if there are facts that show that something untoward happened, that the people's money was taken for the purposes of enriching yourself and your family and friends, we are sure to come after you.
Yes, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight, anti-graft campaigner, the also co-founder of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption there, Adam Senano. But he mentions and makes reference to a number of the property. We understand that Kwabena Dubois and his wife are alleged to have used this money they diverted for, as put out by the Attorney General yesterday. But Dennis, what more do we know about this? Just a quick recall and how things are playing out with respect to this particular issue, especially because of the public reactions that this has generated over time and what has to be done going forward. This is a matter that really we're looking at quite closely, and then also how the lawyers are responding to this. But paragraph 31 tells another thing, does it not?
Yes. So paragraph 31 actually sums up the whole matter. Mm-hmm. That is to say that the applicants are ready to meet the necessary and reasonable conditions that the Honorable Court may impose. Key word there is reasonable conditions that the Honorable Court may impose on them to ensure that they appear before the respondents to continue their investigation.
Right.
So this is like making a pledge to say that, yes, I'll show up if you impose on me those conditions you think that I can meet so that I can still continue to go before Yoko and the Attorney General in respect of all the investigations that are ongoing. Yes. But in relation to the properties that you mentioned, we got an update later in the day when we had opportunity to speak to the Deputy Attorney General, who did indicate that the properties that we have seen out there already, as in those that were announced by the Attorney General himself, was not to be taken to be an exhaustive list. Because he did indicate that those that were out there were just the verified ones, and that there were others that were still in the process of been verified. And that's how come when you look at the document that was circulated, you would see that that indicated that the list will be indicated as and when the days go by. So that's, so that's, Yoko will continue to update the list of assets. So that's to say that even what we have out there is not exhaustive. According to the Deputy Attorney General,
the $1 million Mayfair estate, that house, and then also $500,000 another house in that same estate, $200,000, $97,000, and this is one that got a lot. That's why I was asking the Deputy AG yesterday. He says they verified a number of the 27 houses.
Exactly.
In this Vertex properties.
And in fact, what he did indicate was that what had been put out is those that they've been able to verify. He even mentioned that at a point, they had to take the suspect to some of the places to check some things. So this is to say that what they are putting out there is things that they have seen and they have something to hold on to. What he also did indicate was the fact that there are more which are still in the process of verification.
We'll see how the coming days will look like on this, and Dennis Paberi would appreciate you as always. But while we are even trying to settle down on this Attorney General's press conference yesterday and the details that we got, guess what? Coming up next, we ask, where are the over 1,300 Electricity Company of Ghana containers locked up at the ports? Tonight, what we're learning is that some 1,300 and over containers that ECG is said to have brought into this country, having all sorts of equipment for their work, cannot be found. We'll get some answers to this and try to make sense of this after this quick break. Stay with us.
Michelle say, fe.
Different era, better result. Time has changed and time has brought Kel Chocolate Toothpaste. Healthy gums, anti-cavity, fresher breath, and it whitens teeth. Kel Chocolate Toothpaste. Sankofa.
Yenchi. Kel Chocolate Toothpaste.
Happy smile.
This advert is FDA approved. Why are more and more professionals choosing Flamingo paint?
Flamingo paint has great hiding ability to cover and transform old walls easily with just one coat.
With just small paints, I think huge area, meaning more profit for me.
Great value for money.
Guarantees durability for all my buildings.
Flamingo paint, superior hiding, superior coverage, superior durability. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
If whiskey could talk, Johnny Walker Black Label would sing. With notes that only come with 12 years in a barrel. Sweet, smooth toffee, rich fruit, and a touch of smoke. Tastes as good as it sounds.
Drink responsibly, not for sale to persons under 18 years of age. Not recommended for pregnant women. This advert is FDA approved.
One thing I hate in my life is heat. Or to sweat whilst I am asleep. That is why I don't joke with my air conditioners. Not just any air conditioner, but Franco air conditioners. It's good for the Ghanaian weather. And they are filled with R410 gas, which is very friendly to human beings, which is not harmful to human health. We have 1.5, 2.0, and 2.5 horsepower. So what are you waiting for? Walk into any Franco branch now and grab for yourself quality, affordable, and energy efficient air conditioner from Franco. Visit www.francotrading.com or call any of the numbers on your screen for enquiries or wholesale. Franco air conditioners. They are reliable, tried, and tested by all. Franco, home of quality and affordable air conditioners.
Ramadan is here again, and Danube Home, Dubai's leading furniture home, offers you 55% on all products in our showroom from 1st March to 31st March 2025. Locate Danube Home opposite Allied Filling Station at Abelinkpi Junction.
Hello, my friends. My name is Calkit Toothpaste.
Wow.
I was made to be gentle on your gum, but protected. I will protect your teeth from cavity, make your teeth whiter, stronger, keep your mouth fresh all day. And best of all, I'm strawberry flavored. So put on a smile and try me.
That's amazing.
Just try me. That's my job.
If you say so, jump on my brush.
Makes your teeth stronger, chicky chicky whiter, chicky chicky stronger.
Yay! You did it!
I'm glad you like your new toothpaste. Don't forget to brush both day and night.
Calkits. Happy smile.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, Energy Minister John Abdullahi Janapor has received a startling report on ECG's procurement investigations, which indicate that some 1,328 containers out of about 2,500 locked up containers at the Tema port could not be accounted for. Now, the sector minister, let's hear from him. He said that these alarming findings raise urgent questions about accountability and transparency within the ECG. Take a look.
ECG itself presents as containers held at the port 1,328 cannot be accounted for. That is very serious and that's very alarming. 1,328 containers cannot just vanish into thin air. And I assure you that we would hold people liable for this. And whatever it takes, we'll work with the Attorney General, we'll work with the police, and ensure that whichever group, whatever people are responsible for this, are brought to book. And that we retrieve either the containers or the monetary equivalent of these containers.
Well, as striking and shocking as this is, we got details of this report that was presented to the minister, a summarized version of, we're going to put it, this very important pointers. And look at this. ECG itself reported that some 2,491 containers were not cleared and are at the ports. That was the ECG's own report that, according to the minister, he inherited. But an independent audit that he commissioned only found 1,163 of the containers at the ports. And you think about the demurrage as well, leaving some 1,328 unaccounted for. Now, the cost implication of this in terms of demurrage payment is some 1.5 billion cedis. ECG previously had a dedicated fund for clearing these containers. It was stopped in 2022 because they said there were lack of funds. Around that same time that this decision was taken to stop, ECG awarded contracts to 2 firms or companies for clearing containers. And one of the companies' activities was pre-financed by ECG. So they awarded a contract to a company based on the company's, suspected proven competence. But then again, ECG, after awarding the contract to the company to execute a particular contract, they go ahead to pre-finance the said contract that was awarded to the company. We don't know the details as to why that happened. But one of these said companies, based on this report, lacked the necessary license to even carry out the said contract. They raised questions about procurement breaches. That's not the only one. the procurement directorate had been merged with the housing and estate unit. We'll find out if that's best practice. The background checks on the director of the procurement of ECG revealed that he had no prior experience in procurement and was not even a member of any professional procurement body. So how did he find himself in this position? Nana Mwesi is Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Security. Nana, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. I mean, this, for many, is alarming, but you are in the industry. How's all of this getting to you?
Well, Alfred, this is scandalous. It is a case of serious mismanagement, procurement irregularities, and possible corruption within the ECG. A whopping 1,347 missing containers. In fact, Alfred, this raises major concerns about accountability and financial losses, while the procurement lapses suggest systemic weakness in ECG's internal controls. This definitely indicated corruption and thievery. It's not the first time this has come to our attention, but a whopping 1,347 containers. One wonders whether really these containers came to the shores of Ghana. As it that they just put together some documents to show that they brought in containers. While this has not happened, these are not just mere, these are not small articles, small objects here. We are talking about containers, 1,347. If they are toffees and biscuits, somebody will say they pump them into bags and sacks and into pockets. But where do we find these containers? And so we support strongly the minister's position to investigate this. It's a syndicated, thing that we are seeing here. It cannot be one person. And so we must delve deep into this situation.
I see, and it's an important derivation that you make there. I mean, that the question of relevance as to whether these containers even really arrived at the ports, because if they have been moved and cannot be accounted for, and just maybe half of what is said to be there is what has been accounted for, if they were moved, there will be some paper trail, is it not, to show the movement of one point to the other. These are containers, Nana.
Definitely, it must have been recorded somewhere. And so it is good that we start from somewhere. The investigation must start, and it must be transparent as possible. And it should involve you, the media, and civil society organizations to ensure that we delve into the bottom of the case, because it has a huge impact on delayed infrastructure within the ECG. So we are talking about cables, capacitors, meters, and a whole lot. And I'm sure that they earmark this for infrastructure upgrade or probably expansion. And so if we are getting them missing, then of course they're going to be delayed projects, and that's also impacts on power supply. And remember, the loss of public trust in the ECG also counts. Which investor will come into the ECG when we have such situation happening? And so we must bring an end to this sort of corruption and mismanagement within the distribution segments of the power sector.
And we're seeing portions of the report also indicate that the procurement directorate had been merged with the housing and estate unit. I mean, is this best practice? From what you do know?
Who does that? Why do you merge the procurement department with an estate department, move away the qualified procurement manager, and put the housing manager in charge of procurement? That's why we think that it's syndicated, a deliberate approach to fleece the Ghanaian and make us worse. It cannot be one man. It is really orchestrated to make some gains for private hands.
I say, we understand already this matter has been referred to the security agencies to investigate. Which areas should they be looking at based on your knowledge of this energy sector in this country?
It must cut across the supply chain. Who requested for this equipment, and how was it done? And was there the need to even procure them? Because as we understand today, we have some containers sitting for a long time at the harbor. It's not being cleared, and there's generating demurrage. Yet you go and still import additional ones. And so we must look right from the beginning, the request for these parts, the requisition that were raised, the supplier choosing, the transportation of this from wherever it came from to the point of clearance to storage, we must check the entire stream. And I'm sure that we'll find in there the inefficiencies and the deficiencies. Then we deal with them once and for all.
I do appreciate you for this. And Nana Mwesi, the second, is the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Security there. Thank you very much for joining us. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your time here on Ghana Tonight. It's always brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, and Kel Charcoal Toothpaste. Happy Smile. Join the New Day team tomorrow morning and 3FM 92.7 Sunrise team as well. My name is Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Kel Charcoal Toothpaste.